witnesses. Would the new witnesses state their names and occupations for the court, please? Aye. Barry Caden, Governor of Barclay Prison. Everyone calls me Gossip. I sell jaunty little your other persona, if you don't mind. Oh, I do beg your pardon. Of course. My name is Daily Vigil. I used to be the chief warder at Barclay Prison. The reason you've been summoned here to court today is to testify about the jailbreak of the so-called professor 10 years ago. Losh! A professor? We've already been through all this before, a decade ago. And the conclusion was that there wasn't anything untoward happened. A convict escaped from your prison, Governor. Hardly what you'd call nothing untoward. Oh, well... The convict's death certificate was somehow falsified after he was allegedly executed. And he escaped the prison inside his own coffin. A plan of that complexity could never have been carried out without the help of somebody of influence inside the prison. Governor Caden, don't imagine that the passage of time will afford you any protection. If it turns out that you were involved in the plot to break Mr. Asogi out of your prison, then of course, consequences will be very serious. In all likelihood, a capital punishment. Guts! Hold on there, laddie. All I did was... Witness? Governor Caden? Aye, sir. You have a critical role to play in the public safety of our country. A great responsibility to shoulder. The significance of your testimony in court cannot be understated. Therefore, think carefully before you speak. And Prosecutor Asogi, if you threaten the witness again, you will be held in contempt of court. I didn't threaten nothing, no. My apologies, my lord. There's no disputing the fact that an intricate jailbreak plot was enacted 10 years ago. Clearly, you were both involved in some way. So you will testify before the court now and explain exactly what took place. Very well, let the witnesses give their formal testimony. Tell the court everything you know of the plot to break Asogi out of Barclay 10 years ago. The jailbreak plot. One of them had to have been in on it. Surely. It was the day that Japanese jock was found guilty. The directive came from the prosecutor's office. I assigned the convict to the chief warder vigil here, and put the plan into action behind the scenes. I was responsible for Asogi right up until the night of his execution, but I knew nothing of any plot. I didn't care if there were some negotiations between the convict and the prosecutor's office. All I did was carry out my duty for Her Majesty's great British Empire. By Jove. A directive from the prosecutor's office. Are you saying that was the jailbreak plot? That's right. Who sent it? Who authorized that plan? Very much want to press on that first one. I didn't get that. You're saying you don't know. Listen, there wasn't a thing about the professor case that wasn't unusual in some way. I didn't ask any questions, I just did what I was told to do. More than that, I couldn't tell you. I see. If the jailbreak plan originated from the prosecutor's office, then one thing is very clear. As suspected, there were clandestine dealings going on between Mr. Asogi and that office. The jailbreak was promised in exchange for Mr. Asogi admitting to crimes he didn't commit. That, counsel, is nothing more than speculation on your part. So, let me ask the defense. Oh, yes, my lord? I fail to see how these witnesses have any more pertinent information here. Do you intend to assert your right to a cross-examination? Absolutely. Bloody hell I will. I have no intention of squandering a single opportunity, my lord. It seems all you Japanese are fiercely tenacious. Very well, proceed, counsel. Right, definitely on that first one, probably all of them. The jailbreak plot? It was the day that Japanese jock was found guilty, the directive came from the prosecutor's office. And you say you don't know who actually issued the directive? Aye, that's right. All I can be sure of is that it was official. If it was from the prosecutor's office, that narrows down who could have issued it straight away. It wasn't me. I can't even say with certainty that it did originate from the prosecutor's office. What? There's no telling where it started. There's a fair chance it came from higher up the ladder. The Queen? Basically. Can I give you any indication of who was behind it? It's like we're talking like the top, aren't we? I'll be serious. All we can say for sure is that the order must have come from somebody in authority, I suppose. So I'm thinking very high up. The likes of us on the ground, as it were, didn't they bother with idle speculation? We just get the job done. I'm thinking the Queen. The Queen's gonna be involved in here. I assigned the convict to the chief warder vigil here and put the plan into action behind the scenes. So, Mr. Vigil, you don't know anything about it at all? That's right. My only role in the scheme was as a scapegoat. That's right, isn't it, Governor? Hold on. Some poor beggar had to take the rap for it. Alright then. Who else did know about the plan? I've no the first idea, laddie. My part in the whole business was basically just dealing with the aftermath. But I wouldn't be surprised if there were other folk in the prison service who'd been given similar orders. So you don't know who else was involved? Aye, that's right. All I can tell you is that the night it actually happened, the person at the reins was Dr. Stevens. Dr. Stevens? Dr. Courtney Stevens, or Dr. Sive as she's known now. Why did I have to get caught up in such a terrible business? I know how you feel, mate. I was responsible for Asogi right up until the night of his execution, but I knew nothing of any plot. Oh, I want to get back on that, don't I? Got caught up in it. It happens. Did you not notice anything unusual happening in the lead up to that night? Oh, everything was unusual. Exception after exception. After all, it was the professor. The man had terrorized the country as never before with his crimes. In order to hide his identity, he was forced to wear an iron mask over his head. Hideous treatment. The fellow was surprisingly docile for someone who had taken the lives of 5 of the country's nobles. Being the chief warder, I was the only person permitted to approach his cell. I can still hardly believe that I was duped by my own country. It happens a lot. I believe you jumped from the window of the governor's office when the jailbreak was blamed on you, didn't you? Yeah, that's your fault, mate. Losh, Vigil, can I apologize enough? No, Governor, I don't believe you can. It won't change what's happened. And what else can you tell us about the situation, Governor Caden? Alright, next bit. Didn't they ken if there were some negotiations between the convict and the prosecutor's office? But you already acknowledged that the orders came from the prosecutor's office to arrange for the man's escape. There must have been some sort of negotiation. It's the only explanation. Aye, well, be that as it may, I didn't ken nothing about it. Witness stand is no place for telling what you don't know for sure. And that much I knew. And I presume you also know this. Not telling what you do know is a criminal offense. So you were just following orders, is that it? Afraid that won't absolve you of guilt here. The man was still killed illegally, even if he was a condemned criminal. He may very well be found complicit in murder, Governor. Murder, yeah. So that's what it's to be, is it? Even with the threat of conviction, you won't break your silence. All I did was carry out my duty for Her Majesty's Great British Empire. Empire! Did you carry out the plan in its entirety? Aye, I did everything I could at the time. As you know, Genshin Emperor Asogi was shot dead in Lowgate Cemetery after the escape. Tell me, was that part of the plan too? My instructions were to do with getting the jock out of the jail and nothing more. Gonna tell you anything about what happened after that. Only, personally, I believe his death was the last part of the plan. Hello?
Excuse me.
Mr. Vigil, is something wrong? Oh, hi. Yes, sir. What can I do for you, sir? He's saluting now? What is it, some sort of Barclay convention? What Governor Caden was just saying seemed to upset you. Did it bring something to mind, perhaps? For the last 10 years, I've completely blotted out the memories of that time from my mind. I was betrayed by my superiors in the name of my country. Yep, you were. Just as my father was betrayed, it seems. But you see, thinking back now, I really can't imagine that the shooting of Mr. Asogi in the cemetery was ever part of the plan. What makes you think that? Well, it just doesn't make sense, does it? Make the man admit to crimes he didn't commit, with the promise of a jailbreak, only to kill him in the end. It's treachery of the worst kind, but the point is, if the intention was always to betray him, just kill him normally as part of the sentence. Why would there be any need for all the chicaneries of an escape? Yep. Ah. Yes, that's quite true. If whoever negotiated with Asogi never intended to keep his or her end of the bargain, it would have been far simpler just to let the man be executed in prison as dictated by his sentence. It all happened in that vast chamber of secrets that is Barclay, behind the high prison walls. I suppose nobody knows what really went on in the execution room now. Yes, it's an unsettling mystery, certainly. Truth be told, there is a wee matter that's never quite made sense to me. You believe there was some kind of negotiation behind the jailbreak, between Asogi and the body at the top. Doesn't it quite add up, does it? Governor Caden, I must insist that you explain these doubts that you have by amending your formal testimony. Guts. Alright, go on then. He's not happy. He's not happy. It seemed to me that the Japanese fella didn't have nothing to bargain with.
Hold it!
Admitting to the crimes, that was what he had to bargain with, surely. Can I see that myself? After all, he did the prosecution and now have conclusive evidence against the Carly, eh? This, you mean, discovered during the final victim's autopsy? There's every possibility this conclusive evidence was fabricated by Scotland Yard and the prosecutor's office.
Objection!
Possibilities are all very well, but nothing has been proven. You can holler about misconduct in the trial 10 years ago all you like. But if you can't establish that it happened with hard evidence, no one's going to listen. That's right. So what I'm saying is, the convict had nothing he could use for any kind of bargaining at all. The witness makes an astute point. Logically, it would seem no negotiation could have taken place. Huh. And yet the plan to break the man out of prison was definitely put into practice. So he must have been armed with something that gave him an angle to negotiate. His final weapon? So Asogi-san agreed to confess to the crimes because he was assured he'd be broken out the prison later. I really don't think that Kazuma-sama's father would have engaged in such negotiations. That perhaps something compelled him to agree. What a terrible thing, using the law to legitimize such underhanded dealings with a desperate man. Only to double-cross him in the end. It's quite the opposite of justice. It doesn't make sense. Can't help feeling there's something about this apparent negotiation that doesn't quite add up. Something doesn't quite add up, Mr. Naruhodo. No, it doesn't. But I can't quite put my finger on what yet. And in that case, we must keep digging until we identify the problem. All I've got in my head is this final weapon thing. Because it says... Where are they? There. It's with deep sadness that I accept my fate in this foreign land, and knowledge that I will never see my homeland or family again, but I regret nothing. No, it's not that bit. I, Genshin Sobi, hereby request upon my death any and all material, possessions and wealth belonging to me in the London be delivered to my son Kazu. So, wait, where was the... Where was the thing about it being his final weapon? So there's something about it being a final... Oh. It's on that page. The last one in Testament of Genshin Asogi, the Mr. Vigil claims disappeared after the convict's execution. Apparently Mr. Asogi described it as the only weapon I have left, which fits with what we were talking about slightly here. Like his final weapon, his final thing he could negotiate with. So that's the only thing that makes sense to me at this point. Unless it would... Maybe talking about Kuruma? Well, we'll start here.
Objection!
Confessing under oath to murders he didn't commit on a verbal assurance of later being broken out of prison. Genshin Asogi was taking an incredibly risky gamble. Very true. There's nothing to stop the British breaking their word and executing him behind closed doors anyway. Under normal circumstances, no man would stake his life on a gentleman's agreement like that. Which means that Mr. Asogi must have had a trump card. Something that guaranteed he wouldn't be betrayed. Some kind of weapon. Havers. The fella couldn't possibly have had anything like that. But you know that he did, Governor. The Asogi Papers. The name given to the last will and testament of Genshin Impa Asogi. Turns out that Mr. Asogi was hiding his will in his cell at Barclay. Chief Warder Vigil caught him with it one day. You squealed, did you, you wee rat? Did I not tell you to keep that a secret? You can't touch me now. I mean, he literally is. Go! When Mr. Vigil caught sight of that will through the bars of the convict's cell, Mr. Asogi pleaded with the warder. Alright then, but what's on that paper? The last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now. Yeah, that. A weapon? And after the convict had been killed following the elaborate pretense of the jailbreak, that document mysteriously disappeared, didn't it? Well, yes, all the prison warder searched through the belongings in his cell, but that will was just nowhere to be found. As I understand it, An exhaustive search was made for the document, which became known as the Asogi Papers. Governor Caden, I believe you ordered your prison staff to find it at all costs, didn't you? Eh? Would I be right in saying that you knew? You knew that the so-called Asogi Papers had the potential to make great waves somehow? Jings, what the blazes are you blathering about? The will was found right and proper, in the fellow's cell where it should have been. But how can that be? Where in his cell? We all searched the place from top to bottom. Oh, you didn't do a proper job, eh, you Billy Wally Galoot? You can't criticize me now. I showed it to you before, didn't I, young lawyer? What? Yes, you did. I have the documents here. It's written in Japanese and reads, The Last Will and Testament of Genshin Asogi. Which means everything is as it should be. Not quite, my lord. You see, there's an undeniable inconsistency here. What? What inconsistency? I'm even like, what inconsistency? Mr. Asogi described the document as the only weapon he had left. And yet, this will contains nothing of significance at all. Yeah. That's why I'm like, huh? Nothing that would have given the convict any leverage. Are you suggesting, my learned friend, that the last will and testament stored at Barclay Prison all these years is actually a fake? Ah. As has clearly been demonstrated already. What went on at Barclay Prison was far from above board. The last vilification by the defense was an affront to the entire British legal system. This absurd notion of a weapon is something for which we have only the former Chief Warder's word. The man could quite easily be lying, or at the very least sorely mistaken. What? No, I definitely heard him say that. I swear. Clearly, we need to get to the bottom of this. We need to know exactly what happened with these so-called Asogi Papers. A waste of time. If the will was fake, where is the real document?
Objection!
Mr. Vigil was stabbed in the back by the judiciary 10 years ago. He lost everything. Very nearly his own life. And now you're going to do it again. You're ready to brand him a liar and turn your back on him without even letting him defend himself. It's clear that Barclay Prison is hiding something. It's clear that the jailbreak was masterminded by someone in the prosecutor's office. It's clear that some illicit negotiations took place. Is your lordship going to gloss over these obvious things? What did you say? We should hear more from the Chief Warder. Have him testify again. The trial must go on. Man's voice must be heard. It would seem that a vocal few here are utterly blind to the truth. Very well then. Let the witness testify again. Tell the court precisely what you think you saw of the convict's last will and testament. Yes, sir, my lord. Oh dear. The Asogi Papers. As the warder responsible for condemned convicts, I attended to Mr. Asogi and kept watch over his cell. The night after he was found guilty in court, he was doing something with that will in his cell. We turned the cell inside out looking for it after the execution, but to no avail. Why the doodle-doo? I only found out about the Asogi Papers when a directive came telling me to impound them. The document was found in the folds of the fella's robe that was left in his cell, a kimono, I think it was called. In his kimono? That's a lie. We searched every inch of the man's cell. We looked through all his clothes. It can't be true. You no satisfied with calling me a liar that once, eh, you wee weffinger? There's nothing you can do about it now. You don't have any hold over me anymore. You have no power here. Other than the hold you like to take on my cravat, of course. Is that what you're going to do, is it? I mean, I like how it's already bent. Are you going to give me a good shake again, or are you too scared? And such. Little and large. What a double act. We complied with Asogi's will as far as possible. All of his personal effects were delivered to his family home in Japan. As a courtesy to the homeland of the most notorious killer our country has ever seen. And we were very much obliged. I can confirm that all of my father's belongings arrived safely. And you cannot deny the handwriting is that of your old man, eh? Yes, there's no mistaking that this is my father's brushwork. Really? And this last will and testament was the man's last weapon, was it? I think we can safely assume that the convict was merely prattling, knowing that his end was nigh. So, counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, please. Yes, my lord.